things first, you already win. You already him, you don't gotta pretend. Fuck them, you already king. You stay real, you confident in your skin. It's all now, sit in the power that you already in. This the story of a master from a true Bedouin, far away from home than few ever been. First round pick, league of the smooth gentleman. The game rigged like 50 cents, cruel sentiment. I'm from the era when lyrics and bars is over everything. 5-star veteran, couldn't walk in my fucking shoes or carry them. Excuse my borderline is very thin. Married to the game like ever since maybe 2010. I realized most of y'all not serious. Point blank period. I flex and twist necks like cherry stems. Thought he was buried, but there he is, a new narrative. I keep winning. I keep winning. I keep winning. What up? What's going on, everybody? Today is November 9th, Saturday, and it's episode 110 on How Billy Sees It. Yes, applause for that. Episode 110, How Billy Sees It. It's also episode 27 out of our 30 for 30 sub-series. 30 episodes, 30 days. We're on day 27. It's a marathon, not a sprint, baby. It's a marathon. I'm still in it, yo. And it's Saturday. It's also one day before the birthday of my lovely, wonderful, talented, brilliant wife, Sheba. Applause for that. Applause. Yes. Yes. Tomorrow's her birthday, so we're gonna chill and do some stuff for her birthday. It's gonna be great. Yeah. But today is today, and we're on today to talk about what? I don't know. Again, as always, I'm like, what should I talk about? And you know what? I realized I wanted to do today. I'm gonna go to my website, and we're gonna read some of my writing on the website billybunton.com. Applause for that. I'm gonna go and switch over to that. This is a piece, a written piece, perhaps a piece of poetry, we might call it, or a piece of journalism. Who knows? Maybe a bit of both. But I wanted to talk about this thing called UnLearning. A long time ago, I wrote this in July of 2021. And at the root of what I've written here is a sense that, we live in a massive, big world that escapes our definition and escapes our understanding, our logical understanding. That the world is full of experience and phenomena, and that the words come after that. We have inherited a vernacular and a set of language and an explanatory logic that has been applied after the fact. And so some of this stuff works. Some of this stuff works for a specific period. Some of the stuff never worked, but was like, put in position anyway. And there's something crazy and beautiful and true about the power of being able to unlearn stuff. A lot of the stuff we've learned can be unlearned, and even better than that, should be unlearned, because there are deeper truths that come through the unlearning. So I'm going to read the poem, actually, and then I'm going to get into some of the explanations on it, and we'll do it in under 30 minutes for today's show. Under 30 minutes, all right? Now, I'm thinking what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, instead of reading all the way through and then coming back, I'm gonna read through, and then whenever I have a stop, I'm gonna do my little chop noise, and then come out and say something. So, but here's the poem, yo. It's called Unlearning. Yeah, Unlearning. I've been playing with the idea that we exist, each in our unique and separate worlds. Our sense of reality, a blurry projection of our own biases and beliefs. Our bodies relate in a common space and time, but the experience of our interactions must filter through isolated minds. When I step into a room, you do not actually perceive me. You cannot perceive me as I am in my completeness. I'm an infinitely complex being, striving my way through this physical existence. Applause for that. And chop. Yeah. Look, again, this is poetic use of language here, and it's also, as I said, an attempt to point to something that is real. I do think it's actually true that there is something we might call objective about this reality, but that we are each experiencing it separately and uniquely in our minds. And I don't think we properly appreciate the difference of experience, um, down to the symbols and colors and patterns and images and sounds that we connect with from our separate cultures, down to the meanings and definitions of words and all of this stuff. Okay. And so I think our sense of reality is one thing. And then, you know, that's all rooted in a set of our own biases and beliefs. And it works for us. We can all sort of experience a world, but it's helpful to know that it's just something slightly off. The story you're going to tell about what the world is going to be a construction of your own doing. So in the second paragraph, our bodies relate in common space and time. Right. So we share this thing called space time. We call it space time. But the interactions that we're having with each other are going to be filtered separately and uniquely. Um, and this is why if you go to a concert with your friends, or a friend, y'all can both come away with a different sense about what the concert was, about what was good, what was, if it was bad, what was good about it, different things that you remember. Um, you were all at the same place, you know. And so when I step into a room, you do not actually perceive me. You're not perceiving a lot of things exactly correctly, like I said. But let's talk specifically about each of us as sentient beings. You know what I mean? Like I'm. It's hard to describe me, and it's truly hard to describe you. If someone asks you to describe you, you might have a script already. Some of us are well trained at describing ourselves. It's good for the career to be able to describe yourself. And so you're going to have a sentence or two. It's going to be related to, if you're career oriented, it'll be a description related to your career. Maybe if you're meeting someone on a dating app, it'll be a different description. Maybe it's not career oriented, but it'll be some narrow construction which will not be full. And even as the person gets to know you better and better and better, there's still experiences that you've had, friends of yours that for years you might know this person and they don't know some deep condition or truth, a memory, a trigger, a trauma, um, something that is personal, part of your experience. Uh, and that's okay, because to fully encapsulate you is an impossibility. You are this thing, and then people experience this other thing. Everyone has a different sense of you in their minds. Your coworkers know just enough of you to get a sense of you in this way, and then your spouse has a different sense, has potentially, I would hope, a deeper sense, would know a little bit more. Um, and then other people know more in other places. There are people you knew from high school and shit who know you as a high school person and know you from that period. And they might also connect on Instagram and Facebook and might have a sense of you from that. But that's a different construction than what your spouse knows, or what your coworker knows, or what your parent knows, or what your children know. They all have a different sense about you. And so when I step into a room, you do not actually perceive me in my completeness. I'm an infinitely complex being. You are an infinitely complex being striving through this physical existence. All right, we're going to cut back in. The attributes that meaningfully define me, the nuances of my character, my deeply held values, creativity, integrity, kindness, and grit are fully out of your reach. Instead, you piece together a story from my clothing, my skin color, expressed gender and posture. Context clues and vocal tone may help you form a shallow sense of me. And what if I admit to burdening you in a similar way? You, an infinitely complex being with vast potential in every choice at every new moment. For convenience, I interpret you through sets of old stories, norms, and labels. I'm helpless but to draw analogies connecting you to anything simpler, more familiar. Have you noticed this about perception and its flaws? Clarity requires active work, self awareness with meaningful external exchanges. All right, so pause for that. We're gonna chop out. The where were we on that? We start with the attributes that meaningfully define me, right? Yeah. Again, it's what I said. You know, that you have a deep texture and nuance about your character, especially if we're trying to compile a set of things that are important. As Martin Luther King noted, the quality of a person's character being of some of the utmost importance, right? And other historical figures that we respect, sage and wise people recognize that character and integrity are of the utmost importance. But those are not things that you can see. If someone steps into the room, you don't see that. You can't see their creativity, their integrity, their kindness, or their grit, or we could point to some other words. These will just be words. These will be words to try to point to something, but you can't see them. Instead, when you walk in, when someone walks in, you see their clothing, you see their skin color, you see their expressed gender. By that I mean socially. What are the assumed social uh gender categorizations that the person embodies? Their posture. Uh you get the vocal tone, their cadence, and their accent, and you form a sense of them. You get a sense of what this person is. Every little bit of information, whether you're conscious of it or you're not conscious. I think it's helpful to be conscious of what we're doing. So we're definitely doing that. Um, and that's okay. There's another step that comes out. Once you do that, then how do you then interact? How do you then respond and try to uh, what comes from these the information gathering process? And note that like whatever you gather isn't true. It is it's not enough information for it to be a truth, and it's also related to you. So if you were born in some, part of the Northeast and you have a particular background and you hear someone walking and speaking and they might have gold teeth and they might speak a certain way, so the Southern, with what you detect as like a more Southern dialect, and then you associate that with this, you might associate things with intelligence, you might associate uh, a bunch of things with, it'll be you and you will be interacting with them. It won't be what they are. It'll be, the visual stimuli, the auditory stimuli, whatever you're getting through the interaction, it'll have to bounce off of your own assumptions. And that is just an inescapable truth. The challenge is to process yourself with and process reality with a kind of ease and an acceptance, to accept and to love, especially on a one-on-one basis with people. On a one-on-one, you meet someone to accept without the judgment, without the words, without the labels that you're going to put on, without telling a quick story. So I'm not just pointing out things that you're doing. As I say here, what if I admit to burdening you in the same way? I do the same. I can't. I look out into the world, and I've been told a bunch of stories. I've had a couple of experiences. I've seen images on TV. I've gotten a bunch of propaganda um, that give me a kind of a quick shorthand way of experiencing the world, experiencing all of this stimuli shooting at us all the time. So instead of a complex story and this probing complex story all the time, I can more quickly kind of like whoop, 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 make associations and kind of think that I know what's going on, or feel comfortable enough that I know what's going on, or interact enough and kind of feel with a grasp of like what reality is. But again, if I'm meeting someone, if someone walks into the room, there's always a deeper depth. There's always space and room to get a fuller understanding from love. It takes love. Like if some people you don't give a fuck, they walk into the room, you settle on your assumptions. You're like, who cares? I'm not gonna see that person again. I don't give a fuck about that person. I don't want to know about the depth of whatever. Okay. At least be respectful and kind. You know what I'm saying? At least start from a decent place, even though there's no attempt to go into a deeper relationship or a deeper knowledge. But if someone walks in that you actually care about, it is love um to not just operate by projecting all of those assumptions on them. It is love to ask questions and receive answers and learn to accept. That's what love is. We going back in. Applause for that. All right, so yeah, have you noticed this about perception and its flaws? Clarity requires active work. I'm asking that legit because I say stuff and I talk about stuff out here, and I'm real talk. I'm having fun. I'm having this fun show. We're just talking and shooting the shit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Laughs, applause. But I've also been really attempting to give language to things that are real. So this isn't like the words on this page don't point to like a fantasy. It points to what I think is truly a real part of the human condition. So have you noticed it? Do you give room for it about perception? If you can notice this and give room for this truth about perception and its flaws, does that translate in like patience? Does that translate in like does that awareness translate in curiosity and patience when things get weird, when things get sticky, when the logic that we have in our minds doesn't correlate exactly, and we encounter someone who seems to defy our logic and defy our constructs for normal and our constructs for the good? I think it should. I think that's what it means to notice this flaw of the human perception and flaw, or this flaw of the human perception, this feature of the human interaction, that it requires a bit more work. It's almost a wonderful thing. Like it would be maybe too much to have to receive all of this like depth about people's like core experience, and to and all these things, all this heavy shit that people might be carrying and all this stuff, that it requires a double tap, that like you have to be interested and vulnerable, and the person should also be comfortable and interested and vulnerable that they would share, and so that you have to like actually invest in each other and actually do something more um with intention and with love. That's actually a cool feature. What sounds at first as a flaw can also be like, oh man, that's great, because I really don't want to know most of y'all motherfuckers deeply. You don't really want to know motherfuckers deeply on a that would be potentially a bit too much. Maybe that's the whole point of like being in separate vessels, that we have this localized uh expression of what is, that is, you know bones and nerves and musculature and a brain and experiences that are localized from your entire childhood up till now, and they are yours, and I have mine, and we carry them, and that we can engage with each other, and those different localized expressions, different localized lenses produce what is, separately and interwovenly. Holy shit, applause for that. Alert. Let's go back to the poem. Because my world provides its own observations, narratives, and subconscious triggers, which sometimes only I access. From birth, my reality and sense of self are constructed through a personal, manually expanding, curious mosaic of prior assumptions and knowledge. What? What? Are we following here? Listen, because my world provides its own observations. I'm seeing things differently than you are. I'm acknowledging that. I'm acknowledging that I don't understand what it means to be in your body and to carry your experiences. I can give language to the difference. I can call myself a black man and an American, and I was born in 1982, and I'm 42, so I have a perspective, and I'm cisgendered, and I'm, uh, you know, a graduate of, graduate school in ethics, and I worked at these media organizations. These are all my perspectives that make me me. And you have something entirely different. Everything from your body type to your internal desires and the choices you made. I did the football thing. A lot of people don't. Football's a rough sport. It produces an entirely different set of stuff. And your world, my world, each of our worlds provides their own observations, narratives, and subconscious triggers, which sometimes we each only access. From birth, my reality and sense of self are constructed through a personal, manually expanding, curious mosaic of prior assumptions and knowledge. And what I mean by that too is like we are experiencing the now, we're experiencing the present, and we can't we pull away a different present. We each pull away a different sense of the present because we each have a curious and separate, unique mosaic of assumptions about the moment. And that's why I think it's important to really work on having a sense of a meaningful approach towards journalism and a meaningful approach towards narrative constructions for what is now. Because like I said, we're just finished this election, and we see everyone like trying to come up with their analysis on what happened with their own prior assumptions and knowledge. People are ready made with a historical analysis and a willingness to be courted by these different stories. And so there's the story that lots of different people can't would never vote for Vice President Harris, and because they failed, like she didn't win, and so they take the statistics and they come up with these um, different analyses. And as I said, they're chosen narrow frameworks, um, and they're chosen because the people choosing them, the storytellers, start with their own assumptions. They have an end goal. Particularly, the media class wants to like avoid talking about their own stuff. So they choose their lens, they choose their set of assumptions, and they present that as knowledge. So back in last paragraph here, in what space of possibility have I confined myself? How stubborn is the shape of it? And here we are in our worlds together, and this strange human disconnect might be sufficient for us for a while, but I hope that we're doing the work. All right, so in that last paragraph there, cutting out again. In what space of possibility have I confined myself? Yeah, like give a visual sense about this, that the world, the what is so vast and infinite and beyond expression, beyond words, beyond conceptualization. But we do have a sense of reality. We do have a confined sense of what is possible and what is true. It is a subset of what is actually true. It is a much smaller space. So think about that spatially. In what space of possibility have I confined myself? How far have I pushed out? How far have I pushed out? How deeply have I experienced the world and other people and accepted reality? How often have I brushed up against and met with some friction against reality, against other sentient beings, against other concepts and positions? Um, how far have I extended myself and expressed myself and met with the external world where I can like get a sense of it? We've all done the work at different levels on that. And so, you know what I'm saying? Like, what is the space that I've confined myself in? That I call real, that I call reality, and that I sit in and I accept. And it's like a Venn diagram. We each have different separate circles and spaces, and they are sometimes overlapping and sometimes entirely disjointed, and sometimes they overlap very much. And but they're all our separate conceptions. How stubborn is the shape of it? It speaks to, again, these are infinitely expanding, potentially infinitely expanding, based entirely on our willingness and our choices and our potential to accept broader truths as they arrive to us. New truths keep presenting themselves to us, and we are constantly either accepting or rejecting them. In the 1850s, when abolitionists were fighting to make sure that like white people understood that black people were human, were fighting to push back against like the pseudoscientific race stuff. Yes, there were white people at the time who would read a journalistic scientific truth about black humanity and reject it. It was there. It wasn't like people didn't know. It was a rejection. They learned something, it benefited them, it made enough sense, and they didn't want to learn anything else. They didn't have love for what is, they didn't have a real desire to press out and actually accept new information as it presents itself, new experience as it presents itself. And that challenge continues today. How stubborn is the shape of our realities? Plural. And here we are in our worlds together, and this strange human disconnect might be sufficient for us for a while. I think the truth is that this disconnect is true. We're all somewhat disconnected, and as I said, Venn diagrams, we subtly we intersect at times, and at other times we're entirely separate. I think that our narratives about what's happening is part of this. I think, like I said, the news media, cable news is you know, they give us the narrative of separation. They give us data and statistics and personal political logic and reasoning to say red state, blue state, swing voter, black people, white suburbans, evangelicals, blah blah blah, Trumpers, and it's just labels to quickly tell stories. I think again we have to mature into like more like a deeper engagement with language that helps us tell fuller stories. Because if we don't do that, then we get more confined in these incomplete stories. And here we are in our worlds together, and the strange human disconnect might be sufficient for us. While it could be sufficient until it's not, until something happens, right? We have our different stories until some event occurs, till a police shooting or a neighborhood set of violence or some gripe, some dispute. Now, oh shit, now we were telling ourselves these separate stories and we were kind of okay with that. And now but then something happens and now we have to actually meet on a foundation of like mutual understanding and mutual language and definitions, we realize that we don't have that understanding. We don't have that foundation because we allowed ourselves to grow and have alternate realities, essentially, without that common thread. Sometimes people call that a culture, you know, understanding that culture is like a word we use to describe like a group of people with a shared set of myths that everybody just kind of agrees on together about value and about what's cool and about what's like theirs and what the history is and this and that. So this strange human disconnect might be sufficient for us for a while, but I hope that we're doing the work. Yes, doing the work means to me, as we've talked about on here, we have the challenge of trying to make sure that we show love to each other and that we are actually meaningfully interested in like truth and speaking to each other. The work is softening those stories that we have. The work is understanding yourself so much that you understand that the words that you use to describe yourself, the identities that you have, and all of these, understand the constructs that you've been building on, and that you understand that even if they work perfectly for you, whatever that means, even if they've been working for you, that other things are possible. And so you give yourself room to be bigger than what you know. Give yourself room to evolve and to be different from what you know and from what is normal and from what is expected of you. And when you do that to yourself, you also it seems like an invariable reaction. You also have room for other people. You create this malleable thing. So instead of like two rigid constructs of reality meeting each other and clashing with one another, you have two more fluid constructs of reality at its simplest level, two fluid and open, creative constructs of reality that have the potential to grow with each other and to interact with each other, and to accept the best of each other and to challenge each other as well. It's not without conflict. It's to challenge each other if someone has something that can be improved upon. You know, it's a whole thing. But that requires unlearning. And at the root, apart from unlearning specific like mythologies like whiteness is potentially is better, or Europe is better, or other kinds of like, or men are better, men are strong, women are passive, women are to be submissive. You know, pick your thing, pick your stereotype, pick your expression of an ism. We can unlearn each of these things individually, and you can do that work, and that's important. That's part of the work. Or I think you can start from like a bomb, like unlearn the whole sense, like unlearn the idea that things are rigid, unlearn the idea that things are the labels that you have are accurate. Unlearn the idea that the definitions you have are accurate. Unlearn the idea that you have a really strong sense of what's going on. For yourself, and that you understand, if you certainly, you know, for yourself, you certainly don't understand what's going on in the experience for other people and their goals and their experience. That's what can be unlearned. And that's my poem. And I like that poem. Thanks for listening. You can find that poem and other written works at my website, billybutton.com, in the How Billy Sees It section here. We have some other poems and written work. We're going to go right to Billy. Shit, we did it. That's the episode. 34 minutes. Woo woo. Winner. Listen, I want you to understand that you really do see what you're looking for. All right? I keep winning. And it's all one thing. Be ready for your turn.
So here's your one shot right now.
It's all one thing.
Your heart pounding.
All right.
Clear throat right when the
This
crowd
is,
pipe down.
like I said, I got 3 more days. We're on the 30 for 30, so I'll see you tomorrow.
Stomach tight, round, flipped
Thanks for
upside
tuning in.
down.
Peace.
Try to speak, but the words and the thought took flight now. Sweaty, but can't pause, it'll wipe down. You pray for the day you flow with a hype crowd. Now they hanging on your every word and slight sound. Maybe these critics is wrong, maybe you twice as strong. What if every fear and doubt was gone? I'm up first, bright from dawn, like fuck it with yawn. I squeeze life, pythons bite when the mic's on. Peace, I might respawn. I hook left with the right arm, living in 5-star, ring the alarm. My full nature is still greater, I'm twice born. Inevitable, that's the fucking level I'm on. Picture me lost, I'm differently raw. Been through the muck, most y'all instantly barf. Now I'm strictly the boss, drippy, hood hippie couture. Feeding these bitches till it's ripping they jaws. For y'all fans of the bullshit, me flicking it off. I damage your whole clique, these clowns really pissing me off. My verse is heat, and scripted is law. Like, bitch, you fucking know who you sitting across, huh? Okay, you got their attention now, bro. I keep winning. You just gotta keep showing them what it is, man. Keep winning. Your shit different for real, though. I keep winning. Yo, stay away from the politics, I keep winning. Dude. They still not getting the message, kid. I keep winning. They still don't understand where you coming from. I keep winning. But make sure you secure the fucking ground. I keep winning. I see the